Hey, everybody, what's up? It's Steve and Jay with your Dynasty Owner podcast for the week. What's going on, Jay?
Not too much here. How you doing tonight, Steve?
I'm hanging in. I'm hanging in. This is the day my brother has called this the most boring day of the year. And you know why? Because we're recording this on Wednesday night. There's no football, there's no hockey, there's no basketball, there's no college sports, there's no baseball because it's the day after the All-Star game. Heck, there's not even any golf tournaments. I mean,
Nope, they're
there's
done as well.
nothing. There's nothing. It's the most boring day of the year. So, good day to record a podcast, right?
Yeah, sure is. I don't even. Is there even any tennis on tonight?
I don't follow tennis. Maybe
Me
there's some
neither.
tennis or something like that. But I mean, we got nothing. I mean, I think the ESPYS are on, but I'm not. Who cares about the ESPYS? I
Yeah,
mean, no
that's
offense, but I
back
mean
to
that's
the
just
back to the early pandemic. It seems like, huh?
yeah, exactly. There's Marlboro racing somewhere. Remember when the
Yeah.
Marlboro racing was in because there was nothing else to do?
Oh
I
yeah, I
mean, yeah,
remember like right when it was somewhat coming to an end, watching Korean baseball at like 4 in the morning just to get my fix.
I got a buddy who bets on DraftKings on Korean baseball. He says he makes money.
Really? Huh.
He's a baseball nut. I mean, and he's pretty smart about some of the stuff. He used to be a sports writer. And he says he makes money on it. He puts like a couple of things down and he does it at night and then he goes to bed because he kind of works long hours. So he does it at like midnight. The games aren't at 4 a.m. When he wakes up and stuff, he checks and sees if he's won any money.
That's wild.
I think that's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like, how do you? He's like, I make money. I'm like, okay, well, if you make money, I mean, can't criticize that. I
Yeah.
mean,
No. No.
I don't make money on DraftKings. I try, but I haven't made anything yet. But I'm still looking for the one. If I hit one thing one time, I was really close on a NASCAR one time. I was in like second place, and it was like a couple of thousand. It was like a $5 game or something. It was like $2,000 to win if I got in second place, and then I remember it vividly. I was watching it because I saw how I was doing, so I turned it on. I like NASCAR a little bit, so I turned it on, and like Kyle Busch crashed, and it's the restart and all that shit. I'm like, I was so mad, and then like I won like like 512th place or something. I won like $5. I won like almost nothing, and I had like $2,000 sitting there, and I took a screenshot of it at the time because I'm like, I can't believe this, and nothing. So mad.
Yeah.
So mad. Had like
That's
two or three
bad luck.
laps left. 2 or 3 laps left. But it's NASCAR. That always happens in
Yeah.
those races. So frustrated. So frustrated. That would have been my big score on DraftKings. But I digress. I've won a little bit. It's funny. I've been playing some, not that this is our topic for the night. This is the Dynasty No podcast, not Steve's gambling habits. But I have won a couple of best ball tickets. Like they do best ball drafts on DraftKings a couple times on the golf thing. They'll have like it's $1.85, and you get if you win 3 people, if you win, you get a $5 best ball ticket. So I've
Okay.
won like 2 best ball tickets doing that. I'm like, well, right.
Nice.
Yeah, I know, because I can like you could do the best ball and have like a big contest, and if you win in advance, you can make some money. So I mean, I'm looking at it like $1.85. Even if I win $20, I've made a lot of money off of it.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see. But anyways, this is the Dynasty on a podcast. Like I said, it's not Steve's gambling, DraftKings losing money podcast. That's a different podcast entirely. So we're here to talk Dynasty Owner Fantasy Football. I'm Steve Van Tassel. You can follow me on Twitter at StevieT33 and Jay
At J Pounds NFL.
Okay. And Dynasty Owner, if you're not following us or familiar, it's www.dynastyowner.com. We are also on Twitter at Dynasty Owner, Dynasty_owner. Sorry about that. And then we have Facebook and Instagram. Follow us, check it out, see if you like us. Basically, we're Dynasty Fantasy Football with salary cap that's targeted to 70% of the NFL salary cap and real NFL contracts and salaries. So, you get rookies. We talk about rookies a lot on here because the rookies are great if they're good because they have cheap contracts. Like Jamar Chase, his contract is awesome because it's like $7.7 million and he's not getting paid the $28 million a year that Devontae Adams is getting. So it's a lot of fun. Jay and I love it, and we're going to talk about it. First thing we're going to talk about today is I know it's slow. You mentioned in one of your articles it's like the slow period, and it's like today's the most boring day of the year, and it's slow. But there is a little bit of news, just a little bit of news to talk about. And the first thing I was going to talk about is, did you see the about Leonard Fournette, his weight? Have you seen any of that?
I did. I did. And
What do you?
he reminds me of like an old uncle, your old fat uncle at the cookout. You know what I mean? He just seems like he'd be that guy standing off to the side with a huge gut that just happens to play NFL. But it doesn't surprise me. He doesn't seem like the most motivated individual in the world, and it's kind of shown. It's shown throughout his career. It really
Yeah.
has. So it doesn't necessarily surprise me, but as far as concerned, I don't think so. There's really not a whole lot of competition there for him with Ronald Jones being gone. I know they drafted Rashad Evans and then they got
White. Yeah, Rashad White.
Rashad White. Yeah, I'm thinking of a UFC fighter.
Oh,
And they got um, Keyshawn Vaughn still, as well as Gio Bernard, but none of those guys scare me enough that they're going to take a ton of work away from Leonard Fournette if he's healthy.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I saw a picture of him and he looked kind of overweight and he didn't really do OTAs and stuff. I mean, but he's got 6 weeks it's
Yeah,
50 days to the first game, so he's got over 6 weeks to get in shape. I mean, I don't think it worries me that much. I mean, if he was 260 and this was like mid-August, maybe I'd be a little more worried, but
yeah.
I'm with you. I think it's a nothing burger of a story. And if it wasn't the middle of before training camp started and there's nothing to talk about and reporters need something to talk about, I think nobody would care.
I do. Do you think it now? If we look at it from this angle, he just signed this new contract. It's probably his last contract he's going to get, at least decent contract he's going to get. Has he just lost motivation? He knows this is kind of the end. He doesn't care no more. That would be my main concern if I was worried about it. Again, I'm really not. He's got Tom Brady in his ear.
Yeah,
Tom Brady will get him into shape in a hurry. So I'm not necessarily worried about it. But if you want to play that angle, I could see it becoming maybe a problem.
I would be worried about it if he had like a rookie quarterback or something like that. He's got Tom Brady. Brady's going to whip his ass to make him in shape. If Brady thinks that if Brady decides that I need Leonard Fournette and I want Leonard Fournette to be my running back and Rashad White's not it and Gio Bernard's not it and Keyshawn Vaughn's not it, he'll whip him into shape.
Oh
So
yeah.
no, so I mean, no worries about that. I mean, the only thing that could happen is if Tom loses it on Lenny and decides that he doesn't want to deal with him and he's not the guy, then he's like mafia dead at that point. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's like he's like if you're in the if he's like the characters in those mafia movies where you know that guy's dying because he just pissed off the mob boss or something or somebody made man. That character's dying. It's just a question of when.
Yeah.
So at that point, if he's not on Brady's good side, it's just a question of when he's not starting and playing anymore. It's not if, it's a when.
Yeah, and like you said, that trust factor is kind of why I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah.
Tom Brady seems to trust him. He likes him. There's a reason they signed him to a 3-year deal with Brady's input, more than likely, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like you're right. It's probably a non-story.
Yeah, but it's good. It's good to talk about, and I'm sure it gave the Tampa Bay media something to chat about for a while too, and stuff like that. So I didn't mention it, but I saw that today, and I think I saw it something. 50 days until the first game, the Bills Rams on Thursday, September 8th. Very exciting.
Yeah, I cannot wait for real football to be back. I like the preseason. I'll watch that here and there, but the start of the real season is the best time of the year.
Oh, I know, and that's a huge game. That's an absolutely huge game. I mean, good job by the NFL putting that on the schedule. I mean, that's impressive. Yeah. I mean, I know they usually get the Super Bowl champs and all this, but I mean, they could have like punted that and given them the 49ers or, I mean, they went balls out on that game. Good for them.
Yeah. And I think the Cowboys and Buccaneers play each other again week 1 this year. I know they did last year. They opened up and it was a fun game to watch. So I'm kind of hoping the fireworks will repeat themselves for week 1 this year for that game too.
Yeah, I mean, week 1's pretty loaded. I mean, like you've got Russell Wilson against Seattle.
Yeah.
and they probably made that way because they that trade happened before the dates were finalized, and then by chance they've got Carolina and the Browns. So you got Baker. It's in Carolina, but Baker playing the Browns. So, I mean, that's pretty fun first week if you think about it. I don't
Yeah,
know what Monday Night Football is or anything like that. If any of those games are like a night game, or if you can watch all of them, but be interesting.
yeah, I haven't looked that up actually.
Yeah, I haven't
It's
either, but
just such a fun time of the year. A lot of hope for everybody. Every actual franchise, every fantasy football player's got a lot of hope. It's just a
yeah,
good
you're all
optimistic
0-0.
time of the year. Yep.
Except for who is it, Bryce, or is it Bryce who was rebuilding his team now? Except for him, he has no hope because he's rebuilding.
Oh, he
So
might actually. His team's not too bad this year after adding the draft picks and everything. He filled
okay,
quite a few holes.
okay, sounds
Oh,
good. The
so
one that he
week one,
drafted and then like rebuilt like 2 days later.
yeah. Or no, that was Brian, not Bryce.
Brian, sorry,
Brian,
I
yeah.
get them. Sorry, Brian. Sorry, Bryce. I get you all confused. So,
So in week one we got the Broncos and the Seahawks for Monday night, and then
okay.
Cowboys and Buccaneers are Sunday night.
Well done.
So
Well
yeah,
done. Bravo, NFL. Well done. Well done. So
oh, and
excellent.
we forgot to mention Browns and Panthers at the
Oh no, I
Mayfield
said that,
reunion
but
week one. Oh, did you?
yeah. And I hope that's probably like a
That's
1 o'clock game.
just a normal 1 o'clock game.
Yeah. But at the time they weren't, well, they might have thought that maybe they trade him, but they weren't sure that they were going to be trading. So,
Yeah.
So excellent. Well done, NFL. That's well done. All right. So I guess I got a bunch of little stories. The second one, did you see J.K. Dobbins on Twitter?
I did. Hang on 1 second. My front door just came wide open.
Oh, no problem. Yeah. Yeah, no problem.
Go in the room. Go lay down, watch TV. It was your friend. She opened the door. The neighbor kid snuck out of her house and opened the door.
Oh.
Her mom comes running out. She's like, "Don't you open that door ever again."
Oh, okay. Do you know? I assume you know the neighbors and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. She plays with our kids all the time.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. Yeah. So they get comfortable. We have friends, and they just knock on the door and walk in.
Yep.
They were used to it during the pandemic. We just did that all the time. So
yeah.
They got used to it. So, all right. Okay. So I'll just unpause. Okay. I'll just tell Chris. All right. So you saw J.K. Dobbins.
I did. Yeah. He wasn't too happy. Are you talking about the post where he was pretty upset?
Yeah, and Ian Rappaport,
Yeah.
he basically told him to check with him before he starts reporting shit about him. Good for J.K. Dobbins. Good for him, man. I mean, so I guess the question is, he says he might be ready for week one, and Ian Rappaport says he's probably going on the PUP list, the physically unable to perform list. I mean, do you think? While I want to believe J.K. Dobbins, sometimes those guys say those things because they want people to think that they're doing this and everything like that. Who do you think's more right?
In this situation, I feel like J.K. Dobbins, just because of the timeline. He's been hurt for quite a while, didn't he? He got hurt right before the season last year, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, sometime during training camp. So
Yeah,
it's
because
been
it was
like a
like
year.
him and Gus Edwards, right, like back to back, if I remember, right before the season.
Yeah, it was like days apart. Yeah, it's crazy.
So I just feel like it's plenty of time for him to come back. Unless there was some huge complications we didn't hear about, I'm assuming he should be full go by week one. But at worst, I would say week 2 or 3. But so I got to lean with J.K. Dobbins. I feel like he probably knows his body a little bit better than whoever's talking about it. And if he's coming out and saying he's healthy, there's probably a reason behind it, I would hope.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree, and I have to say it's not like, I think it was in response that if he was like the press, if John Harbaugh came out and said, "Oh, he's going to be ready week one" and stuff like that, that's bluster. And everybody, how many times the guys come in the best shape of their career in camp? I mean, there's 30 guys on it per team who have come in the best shape of their life in camp. I mean, so yeah, I don't believe that, but the fact that Dobbins felt like he needed to respond tells me that it would be bad if he said, I'm not going on the PUP list. I'm going to be ready for week 1. And then he didn't come back to like week 6. That would make him look like a fool. And I don't think, it's not like he was being interviewed and said it. He kind of responded, and he chose to respond. So I got to think I would lean way heavy on the Dobbins side on this, just because for that reason. He didn't have to engage, and he chose to. So that tells me that he's probably knows, like you said, he knows better. He knows his body better. So good news if you have him. I mean, that's great news if you have him.
I'm a big Dobbins guy, so I'm hoping he's right. And I got him in a lot of places too. But like I said, just timeline wise, I feel like it's been plenty of time for him to get healthy. And I mean, we've seen Cam Akers come back from an Achilles in like 8 months. It was unbelievable. So it just seems like it's been too long for him to miss a significant portion of the season.
Yeah, I think Akers, I mean, that's like the extreme. That's like the low, so low that it was crazy. I mean,
that might be a medical miracle.
Yeah, exactly. That might be the fastest anybody's ever come back from that injury. I mean, we'd have to talk to Dostakis and Justin, and maybe we'll try to get him on one time, or at least chit chat with him beforehand or something, and then add it in. But yeah, I agree. I'm with you. So, all right. Speaking of guys saying they're ready for camp, I saw a report that Michael Thomas is going to be ready to go in camp. So I'm more skeptical of this one because it's a report. It wasn't like Thomas saying it, and I don't know. I would be concerned. I don't like Thomas this year. Maybe I'm wrong. Just he hasn't done anything with he hasn't really played much with Jameis Winston, and there's a new coach, and he's got a big salary, and he wasn't around at all last year. Those are all just gigantic red flags to me. Even if he's ready to go in camp, those are just scream like problems to me. So
yeah,
I mean, he's an Ohio State guy. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I like Michael Thomas. He doesn't have the best attitude in the world, but just the uncertainty around him the last couple seasons, and it's just been kind of a guessing game with him in a way. I don't necessarily trust anything that comes out about it until I see him actually on the field and playing for longer than a game or two. Because it feels like the last time we seen him, it was for a 2-3 game stretch, and then he was back out again or something like that, if I remember right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He played a couple of games and then kind of was like, they thought he'd be back. And I think it was one of those things where all of a sudden he was gone. And you're like, what? Okay. I don't know what happened to Michael Thomas. So anyways, I'm with you on that. I think I agree. It's a wait and see until he goes on the field and there's video of him running drills and running patterns and catching passes from quarterbacks, not from like machines or like ball boys. Like if there's actual patterns being run at defensive backs there, then I'll believe it. Until then, I'm in a wait and see. He's got to prove it to me, I guess, at this point, trust but verify, as they say.
And even he's a longtime veteran, but I feel like we have to see him in preseason this year, just by the amount of he's played the last few seasons. It's been so little. He's got to kind of get some type of timing and football feel back, before the season starts. So I think we should know this answer before the season starts. But yeah, it is a little questionable. Excuse me.
Question. I agree. And if he doesn't, I'm not a fan. And if I had a late draft, I mean, in Dynasty owner, I'm not taking $19.25 million. No way. But in even a regular league or something, I might think about him. But like you said, but if he doesn't play preseason week 1 or preseason week 2, then I'm like, whoa, no way. Because that just leads into not playing, period. I mean, or the Saints just getting rid of him. I don't know what his guarantees are or anything like that, but I mean, that's just, okay.
And I feel like that's kind of the route we're going. If he doesn't play or perform well, I don't see him being in New Orleans next year. This is definitely, he's got kind of his make it or break it year in New Orleans. I mean, he'll definitely catch on somewhere else, no problem. But he's got to do something in New Orleans this year if he wants to stay there.
Yeah, and keep making $19.25 million. I mean, yeah. So, all right. The next one, I was disappointed in this next one. And there was a picture of James White, and he was at a charity thing, and he was wearing a walking boot. And I'd already read that he wasn't going to do OTAs, and and just seeing him in a walking boot. I mean, I'm a Patriots fan, in case people don't know, so that's not good. I'm a huge James White fan just because he basically won us a Super Bowl. And he's a great guy. He's a good guy, so you kind of root for guys like that. But seeing him in a walking boot, I was like, ooh, that's not good. And the fact that the Patriots drafted a bunch of running backs, doesn't bode well for that for me, for James White. I mean, I have James White in a couple leagues and I'll hang on to him, but I'm concerned.
Yeah, and I also, to add to this a little bit, I seen he was walking with a noticeable limp too. I didn't
Right.
see a video of it or anything, but it was in the report that I read about it. He was in a walking boot and walking with a significant limp. So that can't be good news. And like you said, you're not counting on him to win you a dynasty owner championship this year or anything, but he can be a solid little help to your bench here and there for bye weeks or something,
Oh, yeah.
if you got him. So yeah, it's concerning. And like you said, with all the running, they got a stable of running backs now in New England that, and depending on who you ask, everybody likes a different one there. It seems like there's no consensus guy outside of Damian Harris. It just, yeah, it's not a good situation for him. I kind of would be surprised if he's on their roster come the start of the season if he's still hurt.
Yeah. I think they might keep him around, but I agree. I got offered him as a trade, like a 2024 third rounder or something like that. And I turned it down because I'm just concerned about this. And I'm glad I did now. I mean, I still have him on one team and I'll keep him because I don't think there's any benefit to dropping him right now unless somebody gets released and I'm dying for him, dying for that player. But I think for now I'll keep him because, like you said, you never know, if there's a game where the Patriots are going to pass a lot or dump it off a lot, and White's healthy, he could all of a sudden show up for like 8 receptions and 82 yards magically.
Yeah.
That's just the way things roll with him and Belichick. So, all right. So we'll keep on that. So another running back news. I don't know why. I didn't pick running back. Just right. It just happens to be. I saw something and I was listening to Fantasy Sports Radio. I forget. I think it was Fantasy Dirt. And they were talking about this, how Rashad Penny is supposedly going to be the primary back. I'm using air quotes. Nobody can see me, but I'm using air quotes because that's what it says. And he's going to get 20 carries per game. I find that to be the biggest crock of bullshit in the history of crocks of bullshit. There's no way they're planning on him getting 20 carries a game for more than like a game.
Yeah, no, not with. Oh, God.
Yeah, no, I mean, just like, even if he was the only running back on the team, they wouldn't do that. I mean, he's such a fragile guy. He's been injured all the time. Why would they go out and do that? I mean, it makes no sense to me. And with Kenneth Walker there, and even if they don't have Chris Carson, they still got Travis Homer and DJ Dallas, and it strikes me as impossible. And so the hosts were arguing about this. One of them, she was like, well, if he's the starter, I'm going to take him, blah, blah, blah. And the guy, I don't remember. I don't know the name. Sorry. Because I never heard them. But he was like, he's like, Kenneth Walker. I don't care what they're saying and stuff like that. So this report's out there. What do you think? I mean, you heard what I thought.
I mean, I gotta agree with you there. The dude's been hurt so much. I can't see you just throwing him out there to a 20 plus carry workload a game. Like there's no way his body holds up to that. Then again, it's Pete Carroll. He's crazy. He marches to the beat of his own drum. He does what Pete wants. Yeah. So it wouldn't surprise me if it happened, but I don't see it happening, like you said, for more than a game or two, maybe even half a game at this point. He played 2 healthy games at the end of the season, so he's due. But it's just,
yeah. I mean, he was healthy he was healthy at the end of last season, but you can't go into a season and be like, he's going to be my guy. I mean, he's not Derrick Henry.
Yeah, and we haven't even mentioned the draft capital they put into Kenneth Walker. They just spent a second round pick on him.
And I think that was their first pick. They didn't have a first round pick, I don't think.
Correct. Yes, that's right.
So I mean,
they did. They took the tackle Charles Cross in the first round. They had like a really high first round pick.
Okay, I forgot about that.
But yeah, they took him. They invested pretty heavily in him for a team that doesn't have a whole lot going for him. So it's
wow.
I mean, I couldn't see drafting a running back that early when you have so many holes on your roster, But I I just can't envision it happening. Then again, it's Pete Carroll, so I'm not gonna fall on my sword on this one or anything, but it would be very surprising to see.
Yeah, I agree. And again, this is one of those ones where I can't remember. I mean, when it comes from coaches, or insiders and things like that, you always take those you have to take those with a grain of salt because they're mostly puffing things up to try to make it sound good or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
or motivate somebody or something. There's always there's always an ulterior motive, and you just don't know what it is, and it's just a question of figuring that out. So, all right. So we'll switch positions finally away from running back. So I saw something that said TJ Hawkinson, Detroit's going to try to prioritize getting him an extension before the season starts, which would mean he'll play this year on his last year's salary, which is like what 4.8 million, somewhere in that range. But then that would take away his fifth-year option, which is 9.4, I think. And then that would give him a salary. And you got to think he's going to get somewhere in the neighborhood of what like Goddard got and Mark Andrews got, and more than Gesicki and Schultz's 1-year franchise deals. So I mean, at that point, I don't know about. I mean, I like TJ Hawkinson at 4.8 million, and his rookie contract, but at 12 million, I don't know.
Yeah, and I had him in one of my trade lists. I think 2 weeks ago, if I remember correctly, and that's exactly why he's going to be in the Goddard category somewhere as far as salary is concerned, and I don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah,
he's been a reliable tight end. Don't get me wrong, he's a solid tight end, but it's just not something I want to spend that much money on when I can go and just play pick up somebody like a Dalton Schultz last year off the free agent wire. Obviously, you're not going to strike, or you're not going to find another tight end like that on the waiver wire more than likely, but you can find somebody that'll produce, or even, spend a second round pick and get one of these mid-level tight ends or something over paying that guy 14 million. It's not worth it unless you have an abnormal amount of cap space.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you're going to pay a tight end that much money, you want him. He's in your lineup every single week, and I don't think Hawkinson's that level yet. There's not a ton of those guys, but if you don't have one of those guys, you're kind of mixing and matching 2 or 3 tight ends. I mean, and I mean, I don't mind doing that. I mean, in some ways, sometimes it's smarter strategy because otherwise you kind of get locked into one guy, and if he plays a team that has a good set of linebackers and doesn't allow a lot of tight ends, you need somebody else there in case he doesn't perform. But it's hard to bench like a Hawkinson.
Yeah, it really is.
And then there's weeks he'll just throw like a 5 points out there. Like he'll get 2 receptions for 30 yards, and and your bench tight end will be somebody who'll score a touchdown, and you'll be like, So I agree with you. If you're going to invest a lot of money in a tight end, I wanted to, I wanted to meet Mark Andrews, obviously Kyle Pitts. Schultz right now, that's pretty good. That's pretty good money, but or I like Zach Ertz a lot this year, but he's lower. He's only 10.55 million, so that's more reasonable. And I also like Ertz because he always seems to he catches a few. He never has like a 1 catch for 3-yard game.
Right.
He'll always give you like 6 or 7 points, and you may not like that, but that's better than. I'd much rather have 6 or 7 points and get those every week and have a spike game where he catches a touchdown and gets you 14 or 15, rather than a guy who goes like 0, 10, 0, 1.3, 12. The average comes in about the same, but you got to decide which weeks to start him or which weeks not to start him.
Yeah, and another thing with Hawkinson is he's been in the league for 3 years. He's had plenty of time to kind of adapt to the NFL. And last year, the Lions had nobody else at receiver outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown at the end of the year, and he still only put up 580 yards. I know he was hurt a few games, but it's just I feel like last year, if he was going to break out, that was the year for him to do it. Obviously, he may, he'll probably have some solid years throughout his career and everything, but I just feel like as far as the top 3 to 5 tight end, it's kind of out the window for me at least.
Yeah, especially because his head coach was a tight end now. I mean, think about it. That's like got to be your dream as like that guy is to be like, he played my position. He knows he wants me to do well, you would think. I mean, so yeah. So I agree. So we'll see. We'll see whether he gets the extension or not. I mean, it'll kick in whenever it kicks in, whenever he signs it. But I just thought that was interesting news because that could affect people who are rebuilding or don't, or kind of have a bad beginning of the season. If they have Hawkinson, they might, if he's got that big extension, they might trade him. If he doesn't have that extension, maybe you hang on to him and see what happens. But, it might be one of those things where you trade him to somebody to get some picks if you're rebuilding, or if you're doing well and you don't have a tight end and he's available, you can grab him if he's available, and make a run and then drop him if he gets that big contract. So speaking of extensions, I saw that the same thing with Kyler Murray getting a possible extension before the season. I know we're doing that. It's funny. We're doing that contest about the next big wide receiver contract. And I've seen no news about any wide receiver getting us. And then I see these two, Hawkinson and Murray, which don't count for the contest. So, but I mean, do you think Arizona extends him early, or do they just kind of wait and see what happens?
I mean, it's tough to say, but I feel like the smart play is extending him early, just with all the drama and bullcrap they've went through this summer. I feel like it would be smart for the Cardinals to kind of lock him up before he gets any more unhappy than he already is. I just can't see that franchise letting him go. They've been miserable for so long. They had the couple Kurt Warner years, but outside of that, it's just they've been so bad for so long. And now you've got your franchise quarterback. I don't think they have the right coach just yet, but they've got to get it done. And I think the sooner you do it, the cheaper it's probably going to be and the better off they are. So I feel like urgency is definitely of the need for them.
Yeah, because let's face it. If he starts playing great at the beginning of the year, that price tag just goes up.
Yeah, and it's not like it's going to get cheaper if he gets hurt or anything. He's still a young quarterback. They still got to pay him no matter what. So you might as well do it now, like you said, before he plays well and it goes up.
Yeah, I mean, the only scenario that makes it better to wait is if he just suffers some kind of debilitating injury and they avoid that completely. But you can't bank. I mean, they're not going to bank on that. They're not going to hope for that or anything. I agree. I think you try to sign him as soon as you can. Maybe even try to do it before camp or at least before the first game just to get it done. I mean, they always talk, baseball players. I follow baseball players always talk about, I don't want to go into the season with this over my head and stuff. And, some of them were like that. Others ones are like, my agent take care of that crap. I don't pay attention.
Right.
I watch film and play football, or, or I go up, I take batting practice and hit ball, so. But you don't know. Some guys are affected by this, and you don't want to have him and have him not get signed and then have him be affected by that. You don't want him to be one of those guys because that would suck.
And he seems like he would be one of the people that would be affected by it. Just the news seems to bother him a little bit sometimes when it's not positive, and there can't be anything positive coming out of a disagreement about a contract. So I definitely think it would be beneficial if he could get it done quickly.
Just a tangent on this. Do you follow baseball at all? Did you hear about what happened with Juan Soto?
I did, yes. Yeah. Wild.
Those owners the Nationals owners are they are so cheap and so bad about stuff. So bad. I mean, I know they won a World Series, and usually you give teams 5 years when you win a World Series. You can't really complain and stuff like that. But I live here in D.C., and I like the Nationals. I'll root for them because, they're National League versus American League for the Red Sox. But, man, I'd be pissed off if I was one of their fans. I mean, they got nothing for Harper. They traded away Trey Turner for peanuts. They had to trade away Scherzer because, they couldn't keep him. But they didn't need to get rid of Trey Turner, and it was a dumb trade. Now they're going to lose Soto for nothing. I mean, and you look at the rest of that team, and it's not like it's a bunch of promising prospects who are highly rated. They have like one of those guys. The rest of them are like career minor leaguers who you're like, how's this guy batting third? You're like, you look at them and you're like, he's the leadoff hitter? Why? Yeah. How? Did they used to have good players here? Did they win a World Series 3 years ago? It's crazy.
Did you see the news about Soto and the home run derby?
Yeah, but that's what I was getting to, is that like the Nationals are so cheap and pissed off at him because he rejected the thing that they made him fly commercial to the Derby. I mean,
man.
And then I saw another story, which is even worse for the Nationals, is that the A's the A's are cheap. So everybody knows the A's are ridiculously cheap. Their all-star representative was in Houston, and he was going to fly commercial to L.A. from Houston because they were on the road to get to the all-star game. And the Astros were chartering a plane for their all-star guy, so they just said, "Come on,
Yeah, I seen that
we
too.
got an extra seat. Come on in," which is pretty
That's
cool of
awesome.
them.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like the Astros because of the whole the tipping pitches thing and stuff like that. But I got to give them props for at least being decent human beings on that because they didn't have to do that. They could have let the guy
Yeah.
do. But I mean, it's like sure we're going
And
anyways. It's a charter. It doesn't cost anything extra, right?
right, and I feel like wasn't it the A's and the Astros that the A's just absolutely hated them after the whole sign stealing scandal. I feel like it was the A's that were just the most outspoken about it.
There were a lot of teams outspoken about it, but yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. But I mean, yeah, so it's so good for them. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just the contrast. It's just like you're just like,
Yeah.
I'm not a rich guy. I'm not rich like those guys and stuff like that. But at a certain point, you just have to be like, don't be a dick.
Right.
Don't be
Yeah,
a dick.
they're going to represent the MLB, which makes you a lot of money. Just
I know.
help
And
the guys out.
how do they think that this story is not going to get out, especially
Right.
after he won it? I mean, man, I did a little pool for that. If I had known about this beforehand, I would have bet Soto the whole way because he was motivated.
Yeah.
That dude was motivated. But anyway, so we'll see. We've had a couple baseball diversions. What can I say? It's baseball season. I mean, it's middle baseball season, right? All right. The last one on the news sort of section here, we've talked about for a while. They say Jimmy G might be cleared by mid-August, which seemed late for me. I thought it was. I remember them saying he was throwing and everything like that, and I'm surprised that he's going to be not cleared till mid-August. That would seem to be nobody's trading for him, right? I wouldn't trade for him.
Yeah, I mean, unless the Browns are just really desperate for that 8-game stretch or something that they're talking about Watson getting suspended for, I don't see it happening. He makes too much money. Like you said, he's not going to be there in time to kind of gel with the team long enough that you would think it would. I mean, he can learn the playbook and all that, but it just doesn't seem like it's long enough. That, and then I did see though that the 49ers allowed him to go out and seek a trade today. So he's allowed to go look for his own trade partner. So I mean that may help him a little bit, but outside of the Seahawks, I don't see a clear opening for him.
Well, unless somebody gets hurt, and then there's. But the problem is, it's not like he can. If somebody gets hurt, you can't throw him on a plane and have him there the next day and start practicing. If this is true, if he's not going to be cleared till mid-August, then you bring him in and like, okay, let's check the playbook and watch film and we'll talk. And I mean, that's a far cry from being able to like make the throws and show them that you're ready, and then if it's mid-August, let's say it's the 15th, and their first game is the 11th, that's 3 weeks.
Yeah.
A little over 3 weeks, maybe close to 4. That's not a lot. That's not time to get ready. I mean, I think about what happened with the Patriots and Cam Newton, when they signed him really late and then he was the starter and it just was a disaster. He wasn't very good, but I mean, I don't see there being any great. I just don't see that being a great match. And so I think he might be on the 49ers all year.
Yeah, and I think that's a bad situation too. Just seems like it'll split that locker room up. I know a lot of the players in San Francisco love Jimmy G, but you got the young rookie there that they gave up so much to get. It almost feels like they have to cut or trade the guy. And I can't see him cutting him with all that. He's led him to a Super Bowl, almost a 2.
Yeah.
I just can't see him being cut. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, they got to get a return on the investment somehow. I agree, but the mid-August was surprising, and it just seems like that's not good news for the chances of getting traded or playing or anything. I mean, he'd probably be fine, but this year might just be a wash for him. Might just be a waste for him.
Yeah,
unless he stays in San Francisco and is happy being a backup, and then Lance gets hurt, and then he just comes in. I mean, that would be the best case scenario. But like you said, the problem is if he's not happy and the locker room's kind of like, oh, I want Jimmy G. No, I want Trey. I mean, if they're arguing about that, that's never a good thing.
Yeah, or the young kid comes out and starts struggling when you got a veteran that's been there forever. It's just naturally going to happen, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then the question, especially for a team like the 49ers, who it's not like they're expecting to go 5-12,
Right,
They're
right.
expecting to be good. So if they start off bad and Lance starts off bad, then the pressure really gets high on
Yeah.
bringing Garoppolo. I mean, if you're not the, I mean, trying to think, like Jacksonville last year, there was going to be no pressure on them. If I guess Urban Meyer maybe, but we're going to be bad. Fine.
Right. Yep.
So we lose an extra game, but at least Trevor gets a chance to like work and like learn.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that's the news. All right. Well, the second thing we were going to talk about is you in your article this week, your rebuilding article, you added a new category to your list. You used to have building blocks, players to hold, players to trade, and players to cut.
Yeah.
But then you added a fifth category. What's the fifth category for if people haven't read the story?
So I put in a long-term hold. It was kind of something like, I was looking at things like with Steve's team. I put Brevin Jordan as a building block, and he's nowhere near a building block yet, but he's also, I just feel like he's more than a hold. He's not somebody Steve's going to want to hold and trade off here, in the next couple months or anything like that. So it's
Yeah.
somebody that I feel like they're not ready to produce at a high level by any means yet, but they're going to be on your roster for quite a while because you believe in them, or you just the talent's there, but the path to the field isn't. Think Malik Willis this year is the perfect example of it. For sure he's not going to play this year unless Tannehill gets hurt, but he's got a lot of talent. And you're not going to cut him at all this season, no matter what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You're right, because he's not technically a building block. Building blocks are Patrick Mahomes, Jamar Chase, Joe
Yeah.
Burrow. Those are Justin Herbert. Those are your building blocks. Malik Willis is like, the cross your finger, like, okay, I'm going to hang on to this guy and hope he's good because he should be good and hopefully he's good, but it might take like 2 years. It could take 2-3 years before he plays in
Yeah.
your fantasy football lineup. I mean, he might play next year for Tennessee, but he might not play well enough to be like your starter. But you're hoping by like year 3 or 4, he is your starter.
Yeah, and even if he's not great, he's still going to be a value at his salary he's at. So that's another reason you don't want to drop or cut or trade the guy right now because you're not going to get much value out of him. So just hold on to him for the long term, be patient, and see what happens.
Yeah, and so Malik Willis was your thing. I thought of somebody else when I was reading this. I was like, oh, that's good. I think that's a good spot. The other guy I thought of was Sam Howell. Kind of the same deal because I think the Commanders are going to try to win this year. They're going to try to win with Wentz. They seem like they have faith in him and everything like that. But what happens if they start off bad, or what happens if like he plays okay this year and then next year they start off bad? I mean, what's the point of having Carson Wentz be your starter if you know you're going to finish 6-11 when you've got like a Sam Howell there and you could say, let's see what Sam can do.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, like last year they had to play Heineke a lot, and it didn't really work out. And they're not even they might not even keep Heineke, or he's going to be third string now. And even if he plays this year, it'll be because they don't think Howell's ready. But Howell's on the same thing. I mean, he's like $1 million. He was pretty good in college. I'm not a huge fan because I just never thought he did much at North. I watched him play a couple of times at North Carolina, Miami, and ACC games and stuff like that. And he never kind of stuck out to me as being super great or anything. But
yeah.
I could see taking a chance, and maybe the talent's there, and maybe the situation is good. I mean, let's face it. I mean, I don't think Washington, they're not going to spend up first. I mean, I guess they could next year if something happens. But you got to think they're like, okay, we got Carson and we got Howell, and so we're a quarterback, and they got a lot of other needs, so they need to find other players and things. So I don't know. I just think he's probably in that same category. I mean, he has to be your third quarterback, and he has to be your fourth quarterback in Dynasty owner, honestly.
Yeah,
because you don't want him to ever be your bench quarterback because he's going to probably get you a 0.
Yeah, more than likely.
Even if you have to start him, even if you have to put him on your bench for 2 bye weeks. Those are 2 guaranteed 0s, and unless you're not a contender, you don't want that. So he's like your fourth quarterback, but it's $1 million, or it was like a late, second round or early third round, rookie draft pick. So why not?
Right. Yeah, I agree completely there. You're just the salary alone. That's like Gardner Minshew. He's not going to start this year. But if Jalen Hurts gets hurt, he's a less than $1 million starting quarterback that can be more than average. You know what I mean? On most weeks, he's going to put you up at least average numbers for your bench spot or even starting if wherever you need him.
Yeah. And he's cheaper than like an undrafted rookie free agent now.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
just because of his contract, he's cheaper than all those guys. So obviously, yeah, I mean, that's why he's like 100% owned. And I bet I don't even looked at his ADP, but I bet his ADP is a lot better than most backup quarterbacks.
Oh yeah, it has to be.
Yeah, exactly. Because of the cheapness. It's just, if you're going to take a backup quarterback, you'd rather have Gardner Minshew than like Chad Henne, for example, because Henny's going nowhere. He's obviously not going to play, and he's like $2 or $3 million.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
whereas Minshew's $677,000, and that if he's still with the Eagles, if they don't trade him somehow or anything, that if Hurts goes down, they're throwing in Minshew. Obviously, they're not going to Carson Strong or anybody else. It's Minshew.
Yep.
Yeah. No. Anybody else you think is like? I know you in your article you had another guy as a long-term hold. Do you have
Jahan
anybody
Dotson.
else? Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite long term hold right now is Trey McBride, the tight end in Arizona. He's somebody that I don't expect to see the field much. He'll get out there here and there, just kind of get his feet wet this year, but I don't even expect to see him on the field a whole lot next year. But 3 years from now, he should really be blossoming when Ertz is leaving Arizona, and I don't see him there all that long. But that's probably one of my favorite long term holds right now is him, and then I'll give you one more guy, the Rachaad White, the running back from Tampa. Really like him a lot. Leonard Fournette, like we talked about earlier, is just the outlook on his future is always seems sketchy. So anytime I can grab a cheap piece behind him, just that seems talented, I'm happy with that.
Okay. Yeah, and the other thing is, I had White actually as somebody on when I was thinking about this on that sort of list, because you're right. If Uncle Lenny plays this year, especially with Brady there, he's not, unless White's amazing in pass protection and dump offs and stuff, he ain't seeing the field.
Yeah.
But next year, if Brady's gone and Tampa Bay kind of is like rechurning everything, you could see them starting to mix him in to see what he's got.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, and he's like 1 point something million. He can't be that much. He can't be that expensive. I don't remember his salary.
No,
but
there's no way he is.
Yeah, I mean, so I mean, that's the thing about this category is that all these guys are not dart throws, but they're between $1 and $1.5 million. So you're not breaking your bank at all.
Yeah, he's 1.3 million roughly.
Okay, yeah. So, okay, great. All right. So last thing we'll talk about is I was thinking we should talk about some sleepers, and part of this came about because I was just reading I was reading through reports, and it's such a dead time that there's not much going on, and I saw one report about the tight end, and I'm no mispronouncing Dolchek. Is that how you pronounce it? The Denver tight end.
It's either Dolik or Dulik, something Dolech, or yeah, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I should
pronounce
really
it Dulik, but
yeah, I mean, so it's kind of like I should know how to pronounce it, but so there was talk about him in OTAs receiving like first team reps, and that got me thinking because I'm going to look this up. So okay, this is what I was thinking of. Why I think he's a sleeper is because, especially in our format, is his competition is Albert O, and I learned how to pronounce it one time when I did a video about him because I wanted to do it right. I can't remember how to do it, but so Albert O, his salary is just over $1 million. It's like it's a binary code. It's 1011011. Great salary if you're like a computer nerd. And the adult check is like 1.3 million. So, but their ADPs are ridiculously apart. Albert O is 107.2 and Dolchek is 209.4. So, I mean, you're drafting Albert O in the ninth round, and you're drafting Dulcich in the 16th, 17th round.
Yeah.
That's huge. I mean, and if he becomes the starter and Albert O becomes the bench guy, agreed, he's like the fifth option in that offense, but for 1.3 million, and we've talked about this before, a lot of the great tight ends usually start off as like third, fourth, fifth round picks.
Yeah.
And then they blossom, and and all of a sudden you're looking at you have when we started, George Kittle was like $600,000. Last year you had Mark Andrews for $863,000, and you had Dalton Schultz for $728,000. That's how you win. That's how you win things in Dynasty is by hitting on a guy like that, keeping him, and having him produce ridiculous amounts of points for like next to nothing.
Yeah, and this is what you just mentioned is a reason I had Albert O as a player to trade yesterday in the article that came out.
That's how you did, yeah.
There's so much hype around the guy that's never done anything in the NFL. I feel like you can easily get a second-round pick for him, and there's reports that he might not even start, so it could be a 2 tight end job. You never know. So it's just, that's why I like trading those players when there's so much hype around them like that. Especially when you've never seen him do it before. If this was like Zach Ertz when he was struggling in Philly and he just moved to Denver, I'd be all over him. But I've never seen this guy do anything significant on the field, so I'm not heavily investing into him, especially a 9th round pick. That's insane for somebody that wasn't a high level rookie, and just it's based on pure hope, really.
Yeah. Well, the guy he reminds me of Irv Smith Jr. from Minnesota. Same deal. Like hype. Oh my God, he's so great. Does nothing. Then he gets hurt last year and is out for the year. And Tyler Conklin comes in and produces pretty darn good stats. And you're like, why are all these people on Irv? I mean, apparently like Irv Smith couldn't produce these stats. I mean, he kept losing time to like Kyle Rudolph, and Conklin comes in when he gets hurt, and they brought in even Christopher Herndon from the Jets. They traded for him, and Conklin just outplayed Herndon too. And you're like, why didn't Irv Smith do this?
Right.
And everybody hypes Irv Smith up. I bet he's like in the 140s in terms of ADP or something. He's at a crazy level because everybody's doing the same thing this year. They're like, oh, he's going to be so great. 134.9. I wasn't far off. I would never draft him
that too. No.
In the 11th or 12th round. Never in a million years. I'm sorry.
No, not when you got somebody like Hayden Hurst or somebody going after him. I'd much rather have a Hayden Hurst at what's he at 177.7 ADP. I'd much rather have him.
Yeah, admittedly, he's a little more expensive in terms of salary, but you're right. I mean, I'd much rather take Hayden Hurst than leave Irv Smith for other people to have. I guess at that point he's your starting. He has to be your starting tight end at that point.
Yeah, and to be fair, he's very low. Like if you're looking at the ADP in terms of the starters, he's pretty low down there. So really, I don't know if maybe people are drafting him as a second tight end or just kind of punting on tight end and then taking him late. But the only people that are really below him are like Brevin Jordan and Tyler Higbee, Robert Tonyan, Gerald Everett. I'd take a couple of those guys over him, but
wouldn't you? Yeah, exactly. I'm looking at the list in terms of salaries and stuff and things like that. You could get Cole Kmet like 2 rounds earlier and pay him like $500,000 more. Not that I'm a huge Cole Kmet fan, but if those were my 2 options, I'd take Kmet earlier.
Kmet all day, yeah.
Yeah, because you can see him being the number 2 receiver on that. Well, if you don't count David Montgomery, the number 2 receiver, behind Mooney. You could see Kmet being the number 2 guy.
Yeah.
Whereas, do you really see Irv Smith being the 2 guy in Minnesota?
No, not at all.
And if he's the 2 guy, it's because like nobody else is doing anything, and they're throwing the ball at Justin Jefferson 27 times a game.
Yeah.
That's that. And Irv will get 3. Jefferson will get 27 targets, and Irv will get 3, and that'll be the 30 passes that Kirk Cousins throws.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wasn't expecting to talk about Irv Smith, but he's one of those guys that I just never got Never got why everybody is in love with him.
Yeah,
Never
me
got
neither.
it. Never got it. All right. So another sleeper, and I'm saying this. I saw this, and it makes sense. I don't know if it's going to happen, but people are talking about Jalen Tolbert being a possible Week 1 starter for Dallas, and it makes sense because James Washington's been hurt. I think Tolbert was hurt in OTAs too, but and Gallup might not be ready, and Dallas might not rush Gallup either, which would make sense too for them. So he could be like a Week 1 starter, but I hesitate calling him a sleeper because his ADP is 142.1, which seems rather high, but I mean, he could still be the number 3 receiver on that team. And we've seen the number 3 receiver being Michael Gallup in past years, and that's not a bad spot with Dak Prescott.
Yeah, I've seen that as well. And then actually, it was either yesterday or the day before. I seen something that came out and they're talking about playing Pollard out of the slot quite a bit. So I don't know if that's just a sign Jalen Tolbert's not quite ready yet, or he's just not picking things up, or they just want to get Pollard on the field more. It could be a variety of things. But I do think,
I
yeah,
think it's the third. I think it's probably the third thing. I mean,
yeah,
this was the time last year where they were talking about Travis Etienne was going to play the slot a ton too, and then
yeah,
he got
yeah.
hurt, but
But I could see him maybe taking over like a Cedric Wilson type role to start things off at, so he's definitely going to put up some production and be a somewhat of a value. I feel like it just depends on. I really feel like the health of Michael Gallup will is going to depend a lot on how Tolbert starts the year.
yeah, no, I agree. But I mean, you can see. I mean, the Cowboys have invested in Gallup. I mean, I know we're high on Gallup, and lots of people are. They've invested 5 years in him, so I
Yeah.
don't see any reason that they're going to run him out in Week 1 and make him play like 80% of the snaps if he's not 100% healthy.
Right. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
could
You're
just
spot
be,
on there.
yeah, it's just like, okay, maybe we'll play him a little bit, ease him in, because it's a 17-game season now. It's 18 weeks. There's no reason to rush the guy in early September if you think you're going to need him in January,
Yeah.
right? It's much more important to have him in January than it is in early September, right?
Oh, definitely. And
So,
I could even see the Cowboys kind of leaning really heavily on the running game to start the season. They have the defense to do it. They got Pollard and Zeke. The offensive line isn't as good as it has been in the past, but I definitely could
well,
see
it's
them
hard.
kind of. Yeah, I could definitely kind of see them almost running like a Browns type offense in a way for until they get back to full strength.
Makes sense. I mean, they have better quarterback than the Browns have had, so it's kind of you don't want to take the ball out of Dak's hands, but yeah, but I don't. But you're right. It's not outside the realm of possibility. So, anybody you think is a sleeper that you don't think is
Um,
being drafted high enough?
I still got to go with just AJ Green. It just his roster percentage is still down at 75% with the new Hopkins suspension. I don't know if people are Hollywood Brown's ADP is crazy right now. I don't know if it is on here. I haven't looked at it on Dynasty Owner lately, but on Underdog he's getting drafted up around like it seems like Gabriel Davis territory somewhere, and that's crazy to me. I feel like.
Yeah,
But yeah, I got to go with AJ Green. I just feel like at 3.5 million, he's going to be such a good value that you can count on for at least the first portion of the season.
I know, and his ADP is 242.3, so he's 20th round.
Yeah, and he's not somebody you're going to count on past this season, but
No,
just to get some value this year and make a run at it, he's a great sleeper in my opinion.
well, I mean, yeah, in the 20th round, you're picking pieces. You're picking guys who might help you this year, or you're picking like those long term holds, or you're picking the dart throws, or you're handcuffing people at that point. So that's okay. I agree. You're not gonna keep AJ Green past this year. You don't have to in Dynasty Owner. The good thing is because it's 1 year, he has a 1 year contract. Even if he retires or moves or whatever, you don't have to keep him next year. You just get rid of him for free. So okay. Well, I have a guy who's a sleeper. I mean, it's kind of the salary's not that great, but I saw DJ Chark is his ADP is 240.8, which is the 20th round. Now I know he's got a $10 million contract, But I subscribe to the same theory on that, in that you don't have to keep him past this year. If he sucks and you make a bad pick and he doesn't play well or doesn't play much or gets hurt or anything like that, just hang him onto your roster and let him go at the end of the year. Or if you need the space, drop him and take the penalty in Dynasty dollars. It's not that much. It's like $2.5 million for like a guy who everybody used to love, especially with his salary. And all of a sudden he has one injury and nobody loves him anymore. Especially because like Detroit, like Jameson Williams is probably not playing at the beginning of the season, so he's going to have a chance to show what he can do. And if he doesn't show it, then you drop him and move on.
Yeah, I remember it was either last year or the year before that. There was AJ Green comparisons of this guy, just the way he's built and plays and things like that. And he was a second, third round pick for the last 2 years in Dynasty Owner, and then like you said, he gets hurt out of nowhere, and now it just seems like he's fallen off the face of the fantasy football earth. I don't get it. I couldn't even trade him for a third round pick on one of my teams. I was really tight up against the cap. So I was trying to move him and just absolutely no interest. I mean, none. So I still have him on that team. I found a way to keep him. He was just too talented for me to let him go. But yeah, you're spot on there. He's an extremely talented player, and there's no reason to fade him that much because of one injury.
Yeah, I think I traded. I'd have to look this up. I'm pretty sure I gave Nick a third round pick in one of our leagues because he was in the same boat as you, and I was like, I'll take him.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, 1 year, 10 million. I'll figure it out. And I had some room. That might be our beta league, and I might have dropped Deshaun Watson in that league, and that freed up a lot of room for obvious reasons. It's freed up $46 million of room, so I can afford to take on a $10 million 1 year contract, right?
And if I remember right, he's had a season with 10 touchdowns and 1,000-yard season, if I'm remembering correctly. So we know he can produce at a high level. It's just a matter of staying healthy, really, for him.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not like he's we talked about him. It's not like he's Rashad Penny, who's been injured every year for like tons of years. I mean, unless I don't remember his college years, maybe was he hurt there or something? I don't know. But yes, it doesn't seem like it just seems to drop that much. You would have to have like a lot of things happen. And the only he's injured and he went to Detroit.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. I mean, that's
so it was 1,000-yard 8 touchdown season.
Okay,
but still,
you can be forgiven for missing it by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, but that's a fantastic season for a fantasy wide receiver, and you're getting them. I mean, 10 million is not the best, but at the current rate of wide receivers, it's nowhere near the worst either. You know, you could be paying a lot more for a lot less, I feel like.
Oh, I know. I mean, if you were like the 20th and 21st round and you needed 2 wide receivers and you took Chark and AJ Green one after another.
Yeah, I'm perfectly
and
happy with that.
Those were your practice squad / like bench replacement guys when on buys and stuff like that. I'd be very happy.
Yeah, me too.
You know, I mean, I'd be very happy. All right. Anybody? I wanted to talk about one more guy. Do you have anybody else? No, I'll just mention this one more guy later. Do you got anybody else you thought is a sleeper who's not going high enough right now?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So this guy, I forget what his ADP is. I got to look that up, but I saw somebody who's a wide receiver 3. He's only rostered in 84% of leagues, and his salary is under $1 million. Wow. Do you have any idea? I mean, third wide receiver in the history of third wide receivers? No, but he's still a third wide receiver on a team. You know, and it's not like he's a bad wide receiver, and there's not a lot of other guys pushing him for that spot. Well, I guess there's one guy pushing him for that spot. And his ADP is 243.9. So he's in that AJ Green category, DJ Chark category.
No, I can't think of him off. I just looked it up. It's Quez Watkins, ain't it?
Quez Watkins.
Yeah, that I wouldn't have guessed him, but yeah, that's a good point. He had a decent year last season.
Yeah, he was the wide receiver 62 in Dynasty Owner. He played all 17 games. So we got 12 teams in a league. So the wide receiver 62 is your 5th, 6th wide receiver, right? But you start 2 wide receivers. A lot of people play the flex as a wide receiver. and you have to have 2 bench wide receivers. So maybe he's your second bench wide receiver. Maybe he's your top practice squad guy, and he plays a couple of weeks when you have buys and things like that. He was wide receiver 62, and he had 1 touchdown last year. I mean, I know AJ Brown came there, and it's going to take a lot of targets, and they still have Devontae Smith, but he's the 3rd wide receiver there, probably ahead of Rieger, unless something happens with Rieger and he learns and they like him again. But he played 17. The other part of him is, and part of this I'm thinking about because I was thinking about consistency a little bit, because we've got Bob Lung coming tomorrow on the podcast, on the live stream. And besides the Fantasy Football Expo, he does consistency ratings. And Quez Watkins last year, 17 games, he averaged 7 Dynasty on a fantasy points per game. He had 1 game that he had 0. And he had 1 game that he had more than 10. Coincidentally, the game he scored a touchdown. But the rest of the time, he was getting you 6, 5, 8, 9, 8, 6. Not terrible when he's your second bench wide receiver. I mean, I wouldn't want to be starting him or having him as my flex guy, but I'll take that from my second bench wide receiver. Better than a 0 or a 0.1.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
I mean, I was just surprised. And at that low salary, his salary is $866,000. He's got to be worth a practice squad spot. I mean, that's almost an undrafted rookie free agent contract right now. Those are those aren't much more than that, or much less than that.
No, not
so
at all.
You could take a total flyer guy who may play, may not make the team. Or you could take Quez Watkins, who might be the wide receiver 3 for the Eagles.
Yeah, I would definitely go that route. Like I said, he had a decent year last year. Definitely somebody not extremely high on, but yeah, he's somebody you can plug and play whenever you really need to.
Yeah. And folks, if you're listening, go check out your free agent auction. Maybe he's on there. He's available, and as I'm speaking, as far as I know, 84%. He was 84% rostered when I looked. I think that was earlier today, so it hasn't changed. So, in 1 out of 6 Dynasty owner leagues, he's available. Might not be in yours, but could be.
Right.
I know I've got him in at least 1 league. I might have to check out, see if he's available in any of my other ones.
I think I have him in 2.
Oh, see, you're on him already. How was he not one of your sleepers if you have him in 2 leagues?
The addition of AJ Brown kind of made me overlook him.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, he was the wide receiver 3 last year, and I guess Smith and Rieger were the 1 and 2, so 3 was a better spot to be. But I don't know. Also, at the beginning of the year, they had Ertz still there, so he took away some targets. Not they still have Goddard, but when they had Ertz and Goddard, that was less room for a 3rd wide receiver.
Yeah.
But we'll see. All right. Well, we're a little past an hour, and it sounds like we probably need to go. I can hear things going on in the background. My wife's, I just saw her headlights come, so it might be time to do that. So anything else you want to talk about? Or I do want to plug out before I let you go. I do want to plug, if you're listening to this, if we release this on Thursday morning, in the afternoon, 4:00, the live stream is going to be Thursday at 4, because we have Bob Lung on, and he's Big Guy Fantasy Sports. He's also the guy who organizes the Fantasy Football Expo, which is in Canton in the weekend of August 13th. So he's going to be there. He's going to talk about, he does consistency rankings. So he's going to talk about that. He's going to talk about the Expo, and we're going to be giving away some tickets to the Expo. Dynasty Owner has some tickets, and we're going to give some of those away to folks. So if you hear this podcast before then, watch, listen, tune into the podcast tomorrow at 4. It should be a lot of fun. I'm very excited to talk with him.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. He's coming on. Hopefully it'll be a good turnout.
Yeah, exactly. So if you hear this on Thursday morning, get your work done and listen at 4:00. So you got anything I just want to plug that. You got anything, Jay, to plug or anything?
Nope. That's it for me.
All right. It's like the Howard Stern show at the end. You ever listen to Howard and they do the plugs at the end?
Yeah.
They have a lot of them. They always just have a lot of them when I listen. So
old Howard Stern.
Yes, the plugs were like 3, 4, 5 minutes at the end. It was everybody got a plug. I mean, God, even Sal got plugs, and like Richard got plugs. All right. Well, have a good night, Jay. We'll talk to you
too.
later. You tune in. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll definitely will try.
Yeah. All right. Everybody else tune in. Listen to Jay and I. Listen to the podcast. Thanks for listening. Drop us a line somewhere on Twitter. I'm at StevieT33, and Jay, you're
at JPounds NFL.
If you have any comments, critiques, want to talk about something, and hopefully next week we'll have some news about our listener league when we're going to do the draft. It might be even not this weekend, but the weekend after. We'll see, and should be fun. Looking forward to it. Training camps will start. We might have more to talk about than random postings.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be nice.
Yeah. All right. Have a good one, Jay. Talk to you later.
You too. Bye.